YouTube, it's Brian Phillips. Look at this, we've got the Trekker. We're gonna do a second thoughts on this thing. This is a ready to fly that we got. It's an Arrows brand. And today we are gonna fly it. We started, our original flights were all in 1300 3S from Arrows, and it was on an evening where we had some kind of crazy weather coming through. And so now we just have some gentle breeze. It's a bit of a crosswind. We're gonna start out flying on 1300 3S Smart Pack, then we're gonna try 2200 just to see how it does. And without further ado, the camera crew is gonna take note of the time, and then we'll have a good timestamp. Okay. What time is it?
It's 42 seconds right now.
Okay, good. So
45.
So basically, yeah, at 50. All right, here goes nothing. That's 50% throttle there, absolutely no problems getting off the ground. I gave it one click of trim to the right on the rudder. There's our first beep. Over the Eagle killing zone. Oh, that is so blue sky. It's gonna be terrible for visibility on the camera, huh?
Yeah.
That's about 15% throttle. I'm gonna keep it low for you there, camera crew.
Okay.
It's about 40 to 50% throttle there, just to kind of maintain that line in the bowl. Absolutely gorgeous flying plane, just so docile. No problems at all, no bad behavior at all. Obviously we're out of safe, or not safe, but what do they call it? Like stability mode. Mm-hmm. But the auto leveling is off. We're just in our stabilized mode. Okay, so there's nothing now. Still feels pretty dang good. You good there? Mm-hmm. So that's with the stabilization off altogether. And then this is auto leveling. So when I let go of the sticks, it's gonna right the aircraft. It's not a super fast righting, and it's also gonna limit your bank angles. But it definitely gives you enough to fly. I've been not over 50% this whole time. It does limit your bank angles, so just be aware. You don't wanna run into a tree because of it. Okay, back into stability mode, or excuse me, agility mode, or whatever stupid thing they've got going on for the name. This has the Vector, or excuse me, yeah, this is the Vector. It's an external. It's an external stabilizer that is secondary to the receiver that is included with this. If it's a ready to fly, you can also get this in a plug-in fly, which means you'd be providing your own receiver. I did break about 65% throttle on that last little batch of goodies. Woo! Okay, full throttle. Okay, staying full throttle. How's the zoom focus? Good?
It's all right.
Still full throttle. Okay, out of the throttle. A lot of yaw there with the rudder to get it, keep that nose pointed at the ground. Okay, we're gonna go out over to the farm field here. Okay, getting a little bit of climb as I give throttle. Wonder if I can correct that with a little bit of trim here. See if we can do that. Yeah, it looks like there's just a, see, it just lifts a little teeny bit, but that's not a big deal. It's kind of what you need on this plane anyway. This plane is just so easy to fly. It just does exactly what you want. That night we were flying in the tornado weather was crazy because this thing was flying great and it's super windy that night. Today it's just, you know, like a real light, gentle spring breeze. Not even quite 50% there. A lot of rudder to kind of point that nose at us. Full throttle pass coming. Up and over. You good? Out of the throttle. So the big difference between this and the Bigfoot is that the Bigfoot is a tail dragger and the Bigfoot comes with factory included flaps. That could be a big deal for some of you. I mean, I really like flying this plane. And I gotta say, like, I don't often say this, but this plane doesn't need flaps. It just wants them. Because to be honest, like, it just flies so dang good. Even though there aren't flaps on there. I just like that extra thing to fiddle with while I'm flying. I think it's fun.
The Bigfoot is a 1.5 also.
No, 1.3.
Oh, it is? Oh, okay, so it's not much of a size difference then.
Nope, this is a 1.3, right? Or no, this is 1.2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's 1,220 maybe.
Okay, so they're similar then.
It could be 1,200, guys. Don't mark my words on that. That was a full speed pass there. Going to rolls. Again, same thing. Try to stay with the horizon if I can. Down the runway. So these planes, when you don't have a lot of expo in the controller, what I find myself doing is I counter my input with the ailerons a little bit on the rudder, and you get this like almost symmetric behavior that's, you know, equal but opposite. Look at that, on the mains, beautiful. Guys, this plane just loves flying. How's the filming today with the blue skies? Pretty bad?
The blue's a little tricky for focus, but we'll see.
Now you guys can see I'm really having to kind of fight that pitch authority a little bit, just because under a high-speed pass, the thing really wants to climb on me. I mean, it's not a huge problem. To be honest, I think it would be better with a heavier battery, because that heavier battery would just basically make it want to sink a little bit more. And yes, you can get that thing to bounce pretty bad, as you can see, but then it just takes a licking and keeps on ticking. Yes, we do have a voltage alarm. I feel like a little bit saggy on the power right now. Camera crew, what's our time on the video?
You were right at 6 minutes when you said that.
Okay. Remember, this is a 1,300 milliamp pack. I've not been especially nice to it. I've also not been terrible to it. I was trying to stay off of the grass there, guys. Just felt a lot of wind there all of a sudden. I don't know if you guys can hear it. Sometimes you can hear it. These Rode Wireless 2 mics are actually quite amazing. They do a great job of canceling the noise. We looked and looked for years, literally years, trying to find a good solution, and we refrained from getting a Rode Wireless Mic 1 because at the time we needed 2 subjects, the camera crew and myself. And obviously we want to hear her snide remarks.
They don't really need me.
Well, I think it's just part of it though. People expect it.
Yes.
So yeah, it's been, camera crew, you want to trade sides, please? Thanks, perfect, right there. That's a lot better.
Okay.
But I just love the way this thing has been flying. It's a great plane. I mean, for a ready to fly, I can't hardly believe how good these things fly from arrows. If you're patient, you can get it on the mains, and that's what you got to try to do. It's a skill you got to learn when you're first a new pilot, landing on the mains and getting the flare is challenging. And the thing is, like, our environment, we always have flown. Look at the shadow in the trees. That's so cool. We have always flown in kind of a hamstrung environment. And that's for a variety of reasons, not the least of which, look how short a landing that was. That was like a 10 foot rollout maybe with the wind. And we'll come back in, and I don't think we can probably get it down in that same spot. A little bit of cross control there. That was pretty tight quarters for no flaps. Okay guys, do you know what I mean when I say cross control? Watch this. No flaps here. Full rudder, trying to keep the nose up. Okay, and then ailerons. See, it's like bleeding off all my energy. And then look at that. Going downhill. Okay, go straight into a loop. Sorry, camera crew, I knew that some was gonna be an issue. And then back out of a loop. Full rudder and ailerons. That's a cross control. And then I'm just you have to correct for wind and stuff too. But as you can see, that's a good skill to have. And when you're used to flying in a tight space, which it makes better videos, but also it's fun. Oh, that's our warning. Okay, so you'll notice that the Smart Pack has recovered. Remember, one cell being out of range will make that little alarm chime. Okay, a little bit of cross control. Basically just trying to point that nose into the air instead of pointing it at the ground like we would ordinarily. I mean, we're not dead yet, so that's 50% throttle. I feel like I'm just a little bit lighter on the power than I was. About 30% throttle there. It is not a dead battery. We want you guys to understand how much you can squeeze out of these batteries. And I gotta say, you know, I was so wrong about the Smart Packs. I thought it was like super Gimmickville from Gimmick Land. And it turns out that there are just legitimately awesome batteries. And I think half of it is just that Spectrum makes good batteries. And then the other half is the smart technology is really good. Okay, she's gonna be dead stick landing now. Watch this, dead stick landing. We're gonna go over the house, preserve power. We are dead stick out of the throttle. Keep that nose pointed down, give it a little elevator, flare, and down. Oh! Okay, hold on. You guys know I'm not gonna end on that, right?
Oh goodness.
My battery is dead.
We have another battery.
I can't end on that landing. Let's see if we can do this. Okay, I'm gonna run and launch this way, but I don't wanna use the engine power because I don't have much. Okay, so here we go. Oh, grass hops! Well, that was better than the last landing at least. Okay, so obviously you guys can hear it's beeping. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about the time.
Okay, beep. The first beep was exactly at 9 minutes. The second beep was exactly at 10, and you're right at 11. Just over 11 right now.
Okay, now we cheated. That last one was totally useless. I will go out because it's a little juicy out here.
Okay.
Yes, these icebergs are from our most recent snow.
Still here.
Which was, when was this snow? Like about a week ago?
It was the day after the tornado.
Oh yeah, that's right.
It was
no,
a week ago.
that was Sunday. The tornadoes were on a Saturday night.
Today's Sunday.
Oh yeah, it was a week ago.
Yeah.
We were out cleaning up on Sunday. Saturday night was the night of the tornadoes.
Yes.
2's at 3.19, 3's at 1's at 3.22, 2's at 3.18, 3's at 3.15.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is spent. I mean, it's not like totally gone, but it's definitely spent. And then just so you guys can see, the IC3 does fit into the XT60. And some of you have attempted to correct me when I say that they're compatible. They're not really compatible, they just work together, okay? And same thing with an EC3. You could fit the E-Flight connector. That's what EC stands for, in case you guys didn't know that. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this pack out. So this one's spent. We got about, let's call it 9 minutes on there. 9 minutes conservatively. And I've got another one just like that. Okay, so I'm gonna put that, and we're gonna go get a 2200 3S, and we're gonna see how this thing performs with the 2200. All right, guys, so a little bit of movie magic there, and we've already got the 2200 3S in there. That is a Gen 2 Smart Pack, and I have it on both straps. Now, the 1300 is quite a little bit lighter, so we're gonna actually have the camera crew carefully hold that. No throttle, there's no throttle cut on this. I'm just gonna check the CG, and as you can see, it's basically perfect. So we got about 9 minutes on our last flight. Sometimes it's deceiving, guys, when you get a new plane and you think a big battery is gonna make a longer flight time. Sometimes you're wrong. Sometimes the bigger battery gives you slightly better performance, but your flight time is maybe 5% longer and you expected the battery should have given you 30%. It just depends because you do add weight as you add capacity. All right, so here goes nothing. We'll go ahead and back taxi here a little bit. And we're gonna take off. All right, here goes nothing, about 50% throttle just to show you it'll get off the ground, no problem. And then we'll just go ahead and do our normal flight. Just like what we were doing before. Only difference is we got a 2200 in there and it's feeling very, very good. Didn't talk about the moon before. We did about a 50% throttle, just did a couple of passes along the top of the trees. 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, this whole place is gonna look totally different. I can't wait. Spring in this property is amazing. We'll come out here some mornings and there'll be like 10,000 birds. And it is just a really, really cool sight to see. We're gonna go up over the eagle killing zone, go up and around, little thermal there. Go up and around the eagle killing zone and then back down. 30%, 20%, 10%. Hardly any throttle, but a little bit just to keep that prop spinning. And as you can see, about 50% throttle there. We'll go ahead and take a left turn, make it sharp, and then right down the runway, full speed. Still got the nose going up. Sorry about the sun. Coming down with the power lines and then around. Did you get all that?
Sure.
Sorry, I know that sun was pretty intense. I was having trouble myself there, camera crew.
Yeah.
So as you can see, the 2200 milliamp really doesn't adversely impact the performance at all. I would say if anything, it's exactly the same. There's full throttle. Let's try doing some barrel rolls. Not totally flat because that elevator does like to give you a little extra unnecessary up when you're under throttle. And the wind has picked up just a hair. Let's try a couple of touch and goes. About 30%, 40%. Ooh. There we go. That's with the wind, folks. Cornhole it. And into a full stall, upside down and around and down. 20% throttle, just cruising along, no problem. Like we didn't all just puke. Loving this Trekker. What a great aircraft. What a great, wonderful aircraft, folks. If you guys are in the market for buying one of these, obviously check the link in the video description below. There should be a link at the top for ready to fly. Sometimes when the planes come in a ready to fly and a bind and fly, you might have to follow the link, which would be for the plug and fly. And then you can go ahead and make your decision if you want to do a ready to fly or a plug and fly. Of course, the plug and fly is going to need a receiver and a transmitter of your choice. The battery generally doesn't come with any of the planes except for the ready to flies. And in this case, it did come with the Arrow's 1300 milliamp pack. Gave us a plenty good flight time. I think we were getting about 6 to 10 minutes on those. We got 9 minutes on that 1300, so I'd say maybe more like 6 to 8 minutes would be a more conservative measure. We were kind of avoiding tornadoes and hail the last time. But on this 2200, I'm trying to respect my throttle, not be totally a prude. I'm gonna actually use some throttle here and there, but I was at about 30% and I'm cruising at about 30%, 30 to 40, just kind of a little bit extra as you kind of get that, the attitude of the aircraft up a little bit. You do need to provide a little extra throttle so you don't lose your airspeed. But generally speaking, we're flying around just cruising at about 30 to 50. We're peaking out at 50, and then once in a while we'll do a burst like now, just for excitement. The idea is we want to make sure you guys get a good analog for which battery is better suited for this plane. I think at this moment, I would say if you have a 2200, don't go out of your way to get a 1300, just use the 2200. And if you have a 1300, the 1300 is great because you can keep that thing really light and agile on its feet. But to be honest with you, the 2200 is still quite light on its feet. So getting back to the point, if you want to help support us, check the link in the video description below. There may be 2 links if this plane is offered in a plug and fly and a ready to fly finish level. And if you guys are not familiar with Arrows, Arrows is being sold by Hobby Zone. So of course we partnered up with Hobby Zone, just like all the affiliate companies we work with. We partner up with these companies. We really especially appreciate working with Hobby Zone because it's basically a mom and pop shop, if you will. And they're selling aircraft that is right in the caliber of the big boys and girls. And for that, we are very proud. So if you guys are interested in supporting us, that's one way you can do it. You buy those planes. You can also do Patreon and PayPal. PayPal is like a one-time thing. You know, if you're not sure about your month-to-month earnings or whatever it is, or, you know, you've got a job where you just, you know, make a lot one month and not much the next month or whatever it is. But then Patreon is a monthly thing. So you can support us and become one of our patrons. We really appreciate you guys. If you're already a patron, thank you. Helps to fund our channel, obviously. And we love doing this stuff for you. At least I especially love it. My camera crew loves me, so she loves it because she loves me.
Sure.
And then we still firmly believe the best way for you guys to support us is to just watch the videos, like and subscribe, and then buy these amazing aircraft, because we want to share these wonderful experiences, not just so that you can watch, but because we want you to do it too. There's no reason you shouldn't. And believe me, there are a million amazing aircraft out there on the market, and they all look pretty good online. Until you get one and you fly it and you realize that they are not created equally, you will not have a good appreciation for the value of a channel like mine and a few of our peers on YouTube that do a really good job too. We don't mean to take anything away from them, except for the sales. And we do, because that's how we stay in business. We've been super blessed to have such a great following here on YouTube. And so we appreciate you guys. Okay, getting back to this plane, one noteworthy mention is that we did break our prop on our first flight, kind of nosed over in the margins of our runway, sort of into the muddy area, and it should not have broke. Is that right? That shouldn't have broken. Yeah, there you go. So we ended up putting a 10-4-7 slow flight prop as opposed to the 10-5 ordinary flight, which I actually love the prop that came on this. I think it's way more pretty than this APC that I got on here. But I have to say this APC has been performing near flawlessly. And my concern is that some of you guys might be getting this plane and thinking, well, what if my prop meets the same demise, what do I do, Brian? Well, get a 10-4-7. We have a link to it, and we can share that if you need it. But really, okay, let's do a little cross control there. Whoa, buddy. That was like a way premature. I touched down on the grass. It's actually doing great in the grass. Mm-hmm. I'm tempting fate there.
Maybe not the snow.
Let's try on the grass here. Let's go in the margins of the runway here.
Okay.
So there's a grass op for you. That was intentional, by the way. Okay, we'll do grass takeoff. Oh yeah, just get that thing out of the grass. Don't drag the nose gear any more than you have to. When you're doing grass ops, get that thing up and get it out. Because the nose gear, even though it is spring loaded, it's not gonna tolerate as much as you want it to. And that is a pretty big gust. You feel that? Mm-hmm. Watch this. It's really pushing. And you guys can't always see, but you see the trajectory, how much it changed. I started on the close margin of the runway, and then I ended off the runway. Man, but this thing just, the stabilization has it locked in. It is a really good flying plane. And I must say that even though I truly do believe that the AS3X that's offered on the Horizon planes is slightly superior, it's hardly negligible in these aircraft. I mean, really, the auto leveling is good. The stabilization is very good. For being a ready to fly, it flies amazing. Because usually ready to flies have such a wonky, crappy controller. And make no mistake, this is kind of a wonky, crappy controller. It's not bad. It actually works perfectly. And the other thing too is, if you have a kid with small hands, the smaller controllers can be the difference between flyable and not. Look at that. Mm-hmm. Staying on the mains, that's so cool. Guys, I love it when I can drag out a landing and stay on the mains, never put down the nose gear. Keep that plane controllable and flying. By the way, did you happen to pay attention to how long the time was?
I was just gonna say, I think you're a little over 10 minutes right now.
And I'm feeling no negligible drag. Oh, by the way, since this is a Gen 2, there is no balance lead. So that means, basically, man, there was a big gust there. Did you see it? So I lost my line. Sorry about that. See, like even at 50%, there's just no negligible change. But because there's no balance lead on a Gen 2, I don't have a voltage alarm inside of here. And because the lack of telemetry in these ready-to-fly planes, we really don't know exactly when we're gonna run out of juice. So I have a trick. And this is a trick that many of you know if you've been flying for a little bit on electric planes. If you're conservative with your throttle, what you need to do is toward the end of your throttle, maybe once a pass or so, you can go up and make a maneuver, something like that, where you really get into the throttle hard and you can see how the plane behaves, and then just go back to what you're doing. What's gonna happen is you're gonna try to execute and you're gonna hear a sag. And then you'll know we're getting there. If you're just being super conservative, like guys, like look, this is what I'm doing. That's what it is. That's like 30%. It's not that much throttle, folks. This thing is an ultra efficient flying plane. Problem is you get into a low pass like this, you got no altitude to trade. So you better hope you got enough juice to make it back to your final. So just go around in the bowl. You know how I just kind of corkscrew it in here, and then we'll go over to the far side of the runway because of the snow, and then jank it in and just do a terrible landing. Look how slow you can fly though. I just love that. It's so cool. And the other thing too is some of you guys have, over the years, have expressed some concerns about the power lines and whatnot. Well, you may not believe it, but we're actually in the process of we're gonna possibly get that all buried all the way. I'll fly out to where it is. So it's gonna go all the way to the pole that's right under me right now. Right under me right there. That's where the power is gonna come back up. It's gonna be underground from there. And I'll bring this down to the power lines so you can see it good. I'm gonna go just beyond. There we go. There'll be a transformer about here on the ground. And then the power lines are gonna be underground all the way out at the edge of our perimeter at the tap pole, which is just beyond where I am right now. I'm gonna bring it back just in case my battery is getting low. So there's a tap pole right under me right now, relative, you see where I'm waving my wings?
You're back.
The tap pole is the pole that's on the other side of our major intersection there. And they're gonna bring it down, they're gonna directionally bore, and then probably do some trenching. I hope they just directionally bore the whole thing. Be a lot easier on my yard. And then they're gonna bring up a 50 kV transformer here because they promised a 50 kV transformer the first time and they put a 25 kV transformer. I don't know if any of you know what that means. It is not the same as in the airplanes, sorry. That is a 25 kV transformer up there. That stands for 25,000 volts. And a 50 kV would be a 50,000 volt. And it has to do with the amount of power that can be delivered to a residence or a shop or a business or whatever it happens to be. In our case, it's a home. And so right up here, there is big, huge wires that come off of that transformer, and they look rather big compared to what comes off the transformer because those are the 600 amp lines we buried to bring over to the house here. Anybody who knows anything about electricity knows 600 amp for a residential install is a lot. We wanted to be able to feed from this house to a building when we build a building at some point in the future. So all of these big plans that we've been working out for years have been coming to fruition for a long time. And it takes many, many, many moons and lots of effort. Good Lord, this flight is forever. I mean, I'm loving it, but what's the time? There's 100% throttle. What's the time?
15, almost 16.
Goodness gracious, these 2200 3S packs, the smart packs, are just bulletproof. Well, they're not bulletproof. I know that for a fact, but. So what do you guys think of this trucker? Leave it in the comments below. I think it's an amazing plane. For those of you that have been following Brian Phillips RC for a long time, you guys know that we really try to specialize in bringing new pilots up to speed and returning pilots and helping to avoid one and dones, which is basically when you buy a plane or you buy a kit, you work your butt off, maybe you spend a good 6, 7, whoa, she's dead. Yep, that's all she wrote. It's totally dead now. So, how long?
It's 15, almost 16, I believe.
16 minutes is a long time.
Almost, yeah.
Goodness gracious, what did we get, 9 on the last one? 9 plus
9,
the hand launch?
Yep.
But yeah, guys, this thing is dead. I tried to get it past the glacials. Not dead, guys.
Yeah.
Okay, mind holding that? So yeah, I would say the 2200, and this is what I was talking about, the spring-loaded there. I just love this plane. It is a great beginner plane. It is definitely gonna be everything you need and more if you're just getting into the hobby. It's robust, it's not gonna break if you have a bad landing, except the prop. The stock prop was pretty easy to break, but it was also quite easy to replace. So my recommendation is if you guys are ordering this today, order it and maybe get yourself a couple or 3 extra props. They're not very expensive if you order them with the plane. If they happen to be out of stock, ask me and I can get you a link to these ones, which is an APC 1047 slow flight prop, which just is a little teeny tiny bit too big. So what you would have to do if you really wanted this to fit great is you'd have to just notch that just a hair right there with like an X-Acto knife, and then notch that just a hair with an X-Acto knife. So now hopefully this helps you to buy with confidence if you're thinking about buying this plane. And remember, that's what we do here on Brian Phillips RC, especially with our second thoughts. We kind of put everything together in a nice clean package, hopefully, and we deliver it to you and say, yep, after having explored this plane for a little bit, we found out it's actually legit very good. It holds up to a little bit of rough landings. It's holding up to bad weather flights and good weather flights alike. I mean, shoot, we flew this in hail for a second, didn't we? Well, maybe it was rain. Yeah, I don't think it was hailing when it actually was flying. But this plane is amazing. Yes, there are other choices in the ready to fly entry level price point. And if you have questions or maybe you're not into this particular plane, we can help you with that too. Obviously the Bigfoot also from Arrows is another great option, but there are a variety of other options that also might meet your fancy. But I can tell you this, we have been very impressed with just how good the Arrows lineup has been. And that's not to pull any punches. We work with some of the big companies, and the big companies do a good job for a reason, and that's because, you know, they basically deliver a better product for a better price than the competitors can. And I can tell you this, we have been extremely impressed with this. Also comes in a small box. This tail actually comes off. This is not an overly huge plane. You could easily get this in a car. You can put this behind the seat and it'll slide right in, no problem. And if it is a problem, if you have an extremely small car, then there's a lot of ways you can get this thing in there. And I definitely like that it's a top load. I definitely like that it's easy to get that on and off. I did not like the binding procedure. We ordinarily do not have to bind our ready to fly planes. This one we did have to bind. Keep in mind, when you're binding one of these ready to fly, it's weird. You have the transmitter off, you power it. It's a strange procedure, and we did run into some trouble with it. That was then we had some trouble getting these lined up.
No,
this. Yeah, it was just the tail. So if you're curious about the unbox build radio setup that we customarily do, this is a second thoughts video. So just go to the playlist on Brian Phillips RC. You can do a search. You can search for this plane, and you can find the playlist that way. The other thing you can do is just search for Trekker, and you'll see all the videos that have that in it. So I really like this plane. It's a great plane. If you can't stand the looks or the performance of this plane, then there's tons of other choices. We literally have thousands of videos. We will be able to satisfy your RC desires more than likely. So just search through. Don't forget to leave us a like on this video if we were able to help you at all, or if you enjoyed the content, or if you just want to be a nice guy and you hated it. Either way, we appreciate it. And then also, we would love your patronage. Come back for more. There's tons of video footage here. We're putting out new stuff twice a week, most weeks. Some weeks we're putting out 3 times a week. So it's more regular content than you're gonna get from some of your other channels. And we do try to reply to 100% of our comments, unless you're just a complete jerk, which does happen a couple of times a week, believe it or not. So anyway, we really appreciate you guys that aren't, and I'm talking about extreme minority. We have been very, very lucky on this. What do we have, like 110,000 subscribers?
I think so.
We've probably had maybe 60 people out of 110,000 that have been problem. That, we feel like that is a huge victory. And usually it's, you know, like just jerks. But the thing is, we're really glad because there's so many great people that have been by our side this whole 7 years. Some of you guys have been here the whole time.
Yeah.
And then others of you are brand new. We really appreciate you guys being here, part of us. Don't forget, the best way to improve the RC experience is to just be a good fellow RCer. It seems like sometimes that is a little bit problematic when you get into the club environment. And so that's part of the reason why we love doing this here, because you can just come here, we'll help you figure it out, and then you can do your own thing. And if you have a club that's great, even better. So at the end of the day, we're here to serve you guys, not the vendors and manufacturers and distributors that we work with, but we do have to keep good relationships with these guys because that's how we bring you lots of content. Otherwise, we couldn't ever afford to bring you as much as we do. So we want to pay a special thanks to Hobby Zone for sending us the Aeros aircraft. And we hope there's a lot more coming soon. And we know there's a lot more coming soon. So stay tuned. Also, special thanks to the patrons and PayPal supporters. You brighten our day when you send us money that way. And that is what funds our channel after all. So thanks for watching. Come back for more.